Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the CGS channel, where today we're back ranking Terraria. In this mini-series, I listen, analyse and rank the Vanilla Calamity mod soundtracks. The 39 OSTs will be separated across 4 videos, each with a different theme, and this one focusing on biome layers, as this is episode 1. Welcome everyone to a new OST ranking series. But before we start, there are a couple of important things that I do need to say, such as the only tracks that you'll find on this list have been added by the official Vanilla Calamity music mod. There are other tracks that you will hear in-game, for example all the Calamity bosses, as well as the Calamity exclusive structures and events such as the Biocenter Labs and Acid Rain. I've already ranked most of those tracks a good few months ago now, which you can watch by clicking the card just here up on your screen now, or by viewing all of my Terraria ranking videos by clicking the full playlist link down in the description. That past ranking was me listening to the tracks for the first ever time. However, this mini-series is different, as I've already heard most of these through my playthrough series. So this will be not only me ranking these 39 tracks, but also us reminiscing on the good and not so good times we've had so far. One final thing that I want to say is that I've only just recently entered hard mode, so all of these tracks on the list is what you can hear in pre-hard mode. However, if down the line I end up finishing the game, then I would love to update this list with all of the hard mode tracks. So now, let's quickly move on to the tiers, as just having the ranks of F, D, C, B, A, S and S+, is boring, so we are going to adopt the same ranks from my original Calamity ranking video of Failure. Actually, I'm going to change that to Flop. Decent, cool, brilliant, amazing, stupendous, and finally the tier reserved for only the best in the entire mod. But we've got a lot of tracks to go through. I was tempted to make this a shorter series by analysing the tracks a little bit less than normal. However, you all voted for more episodes with a deeper analysis, so that is what I'm going to do, while of course still giving my honest expert opinions. Most of these tracks are made by Heart Plus Up, so a massive shout out to her. But without further ado, let's listen, analyse and rank the first track for today, which is actually a 4-in-1 called a Legend Strife Day Theme. Let's go! So this is the Dawn theme of the track. And already I feel the nostalgia coursing through my veins. Wow, that E minor bass is so powerful. Beautiful violin. It perfectly corresponds with the calming nature of the dawn. Triple forte or forte fortissimo peak there, but now we transition to the morning theme, and instantly the flute brings an element of joy and gratitude, as in-game, when the morning comes around, this is the peaceful part of the day. It's when the least amount of enemies will spawn. Also, the harmony now focuses in on the relative major of E minor, which is G major. But see Jess, what does that mean? Well, to put it simply, it is when a major key uses the same notes as a previous minor key, but now with a different tonic, a different starting note. These relative keys change based on the previous minor keys. So for example, we've just had E minor, which is G major, but D minor would be F major, C minor would be E flat major, etc. Such an elegant melody, helped through shifting the beats per minute to around 100, shifting back to 4/4 common time signature as we were just in 6/8, but mainly the orchestral reprise of the synth bass, brass and strings. Even when playing, the main thing I noticed about the afternoon theme, which we're on now and is probably my favourite one, is the sheer power and prowess of the kick drum, or sometimes called the pedal bass drum, by weirdos. I believe it sounds so powerful because of some sub-bass layering, which means overlapping multiple bass sounds, typically with a low to mid frequency, which makes it sound more thick. I've just realised the names are in reverse order to Stained Brutal Calamity, the final soundtrack in the entire game. As we can see, we've got Acceptance, Epiphany, Lament and Grief, but I'll touch up more about that in the conclusion. Also, half the track is most replayed. That's how you know it's good. Heart Plus Up has managed to create such elegance in this theme through the sparkles of light betrayed by the chimes and just how carefully each piano chord is played with a legato melody, which is the Italian term for tied together. We conclude now with the final theme of this quartet being the evening, and if you thought Lament was slow, this is another level, but that is okay. This theme is meant to be about winding down after the day, and these string pads really helps to set the scene. In fact, this does remind me a bit of the evening theme from Lakeside Songbook in Ultra Kill. That also used a few plucky textures which immerses you into the sensation of the sun setting, life getting quieter, and small natural movements such as twigs and grasshoppers becoming more prominent. This is really interesting, and something I hadn't picked up on before. The tempo increases slightly the later into the evening we get, subtly hinting at the potential dangers coming up ahead, because obviously the night is the most dangerous time for the player. I think this is signified really well with the progression from A to C to E and finally G sharp, and that contrast remains quite soothing, so it doesn't immediately warn you, as that would be too easy, but if you pay close enough attention you will notice these little details, which I think is what Calamity is all about. In conclusion, although this was a 4-in-1 theme, this is technically the longest track I have ever covered on the channel, being 15 minutes and 14 seconds. But Heart Plus Up made sure every single one of those 914 seconds was worth it. I mentioned earlier about the names of the songs being in reverse order from the final boss Supreme Calamitous, and there are definitely some motifs from that amazing track used in here too. And that makes me think, in this world, everything we do, even the most simple little tasks that we do during the day, all leads up to that grand finale. And that is some amazing storytelling, if I got that right, for an amazing track. So for that reason, I think A Legend Strife fits perfectly into A tier. It's not often in this OST rankings that the first track is rated so highly, but let's see if that can continue with Laze of the Sky, which is the night theme. Let's go! Really nice E major progression every 2 bars. Let me just replay that actually, because I want to try and work out the exact figure. I think it is an EGBD, as that's quite a common bar to use. Often actually with a F on the end, as that then becomes a treble clef, which is one of the first things that you will learn when starting to play a new instrument, and that has the connotation of every good boy does fine. Stupid saying, really. I do really like the upbeat nature of the D major arpeggio, sounding like a harp sample. And if you have seen any of my previous Terraria ranking videos, you would know just how much I love the harp. I've always said in soundtracks, sometimes less is more, and even the most simple of techniques, such as that descending chord sequence, really pulls on my heartstrings, especially as Heart Plus Up dragged out the previous key in a decrescendo, bringing more emphasis to the remaining keys, making them stand out more. In conclusion, this had a really soft and harmonising melody, one that I could only imagine being played while reading a book in the comfort of your own bedroom before getting ready for bed. The bass ostinatos felt like the connecting spine of the track and the heart of the home that you live in within your Terraria world. So for that reason, I'm going to place it up into B tier. Our third track is the rain theme called Downpour. Let's go. Oh yeah, I remember this one. I love it. One thing I've already noticed about Heart Plus Up is how brilliant she is at storytelling through the textures, yet it feels so majestically effortless. It's almost like you can just imagine a theme and boom, just like that, she's crafted everything, in particular the piano, in such a way where it just perfectly resembles that theme. and every single note is perfectly placed so you can immerse yourself within the context of the track and experience those Calamity emotions she would want you to feel, and that is pure natural talent. Like here, there's an element of melancholia with the string tremolos and luscious crescendo, making each increase in decibel feel like a new emotional story being told. Wow, that C major 7 chord was the definition of sentimental power. There's a very brief delayering there of the percussion, which gave you a moment to absorb the atmosphere around you before it suddenly came back, acting as a short break within the wind or rain. In conclusion, I already know I'm going to love this series. You receive a different level of appreciation listening to these tracks outside of playing the game, especially for me. Whenever I'm playing Terraria, I'm always recording for a video, so that's where my focus is. I'm always thinking about what I need to do next, how I can improve, how I can make it more entertaining, etc. So just making a few videos where I fully focus on the music is so nice. For the ranking, this is my favourite one so far. However, it just misses out on S tier. I think if it was a little longer, it could have got there, but still, this is an amazing track. Next up, Under the Earth, which shouldn't be too difficult to understand that this is the theme of the underground. Let's go! Do 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 do. This isn't quite as goofy as the from base Terraria. However, in my opinion, it is just as memorable. Obviously, you have the main synth pad in D minor with a very catchy melody, but the thing that stands out to me the most is the sheer impact of the gunshot-like sound, as it is devastating. To everyone watching on the CGS channel, I have some very tragic news. The green screen has now got even more holes in it. Oh no! Oh my god. This is part of the leg! Oh god, look how much this is bent as well. That is not good, that's flat. It should not be doing that. This is actually a really sad moment in the channel's history. After a good few months of bullying the green screen on a weekly basis, it is finally crumbled. To commemorate the tragic loss of the green screen leg, I'm going to stick it up here on my wall. Oh, that's not even in frame. Okay, I'll stick it here to give it some memorial. As much as I hate the green screen, I actually feel really sad. Anyway, let's ignore that now. Let's get back to the track. The gunshot sound is what I believe to be a high attack click sampled with a high shelf equalizer, or high shelf EQ as it's more commonly referred as, but that effectively boosts the frequency level to make it sound more boastful and demanding. But this is great as it signifies all the potential dangers of the underground and how I always die to those stupid hidden boulders. Quite a prominent shaker sound here, like a maraca, but I don't think it is that, but rather a staccato snare. Staccato, by the way, is when notes are shortened to create a sharper, more percussive edge. But this is my favourite bit right here. We've got a subtle 3/2 polyrhythm, which is different to time signature, by the way, as that is still firmly in 4/4, which creates that echoey cave-like sensation. In conclusion, the track balanced hope and exploration with potential danger really well, and the primary melody was perfectly composed to get stuck in your head because it only had a few textures. But they almost always took control through the repeating ostinato, like grabbing the track by the scruff of the neck, leaving you with a sense of mystery and suspense. This was another brilliant track, again very fitting for its theme, so I'm going to place it up at the top of B tier. Now we have the mushroom variant of the underground called Psychedelic Depths. Really cool name, but now it's time to see if it has a really cool soundtrack to go with it. Let's go. This is not going to affect the ranking, but I do love the little added detail here of the mushrooms lighting up on this killer beat. Oh my god, Heart Plus Up did not need to go this hard. Wow, this track is really exceeding my expectations. That drum beat bridge hooks you by switching it up to a 6/8 over 4/4 groove, which catches you a little off guard, making it stand out more, and it glues the two sections together flawlessly. I can't help but subconsciously headbang to the beat. But this is interesting here, using a B sharp minor chord as it brings an element of dissonance. I can imagine Heart Plus Up has chosen this to signify the difference between this mushroom biome and the rest of the underground. I always love the use of a pedal point breakdown. What, I don't remember this. Okay, that was a pretty terrible loop, but honestly, that's only a small nitpick. By the way, I feel like I should explain so you watching could potentially learn something new. A pedal point breakdown is when you have a background texture / note repeating over and over. Here it is the drum beat, but that then becomes the main foreground texture as the breakdown happens, and every other texture delayers, just leaving that one to remain. In conclusion, although this didn't have the, how do I put it, odd synths of the bass Terraria theme, it still showcased the mushroom's eerie beauty. It felt quite colourful with its high-pitched melody, pulsating kicks and snares, as well as the otherworldly dissonance which really brought a new life to the underground. For me, I was very impressed. As I spent over 100 hours in-game listening to these tracks, I kind of have a rough idea as to where I'm going to place them beforehand. However, this was the first one where I was truly taken back as to how underrated it was. Psychedelic Depths definitely lived up to its amazing name as it slides into A tier. We are now just over halfway through the tracks for today, so now it is time for Comment of the Week. If you're new to the channel, this is an award I give out every week to my favourite comment from the previous video. However, to be eligible, you must be subscribed. I do just quickly want to say a big thank you for the amazing support on the last video. Because I hadn't made an Ultra Kill video in a little while, I was half expecting it not to perform that well, however I was pleasantly surprised. But the winner for Comment of the Week goes to Wire_Squire for sending one of the nicest overall comments I have ever received on the channel, saying things such as, I'm the best person to go for music rankings, as well as you started from pretty much no internet presence to having over 8,000 subscribers. Think about it. 8,000 individual people decided that they like your content. This was an incredible comment as it really put it into perspective for me as to how blessed I am to have so many of you amazing people supporting me on my journey, and to all 8,000 plus of you that have subscribed, I am eternally grateful. I also want to give an almost weekly shout out now to Trey for the donation. You are the GOAT, my friend. Thank you so much. But as usual, if you want to have a chance to be featured as Comment of the Week for my next video, which will be part 2 of this series, all you have to do is subscribe and comment down below. Now, let's move on to track number 6. Sticking with the underground theming, we have Amidst the Minerals, theme of the geodes. I don't actually know what signifies as a geobiome. Is it the granite caves maybe? Just done some research and it looks like I was right. Granite caves and also marble biomes too. Okay, good to know. Let's go. Strong starts definitely get me quite invested, as to me, so far, the standout texture is the cymbal, which is seen as a shimmering instrument, obviously fitting for the geodes, but also it emphasises a uplifting and joyful sound. And the reason why I point that out is because it completely contradicts the C sharp minor chord. In particular, the minor third of E is very low, and that can be seen as unsettling through its danger. Oh, I forgot about this bit. You see, I interpret this now as you've been exploring, trying to survive and hide away from the Medusas, but now the change in pitch signifies your adventure has become successful, you've found the treasure. Yet again, we have that pedal point technique used as well, so that aforementioned chord is still there, as if to say, it's not over yet. Whoa! Oh, this is probably the best put together piece yet. We just heard the syncopation where we only have one remaining texture, that being that distressing chord from before, leaving you in jeopardy, crushing your hopes and dreams of making it out alive. But somehow you managed to pull through, and that C sharp minor chord that has been continuous since the very first second in this chord now changes to B minor, a bit more of an optimistic chord, evoking the feeling of, oh wow, I have a chance that I can do this. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It isn't guaranteed, as we are still in the minor keys, and major keys are always seen as happier and more positive, but that is a really nice touch from Heart Plus Up. Oh wow, is that a trombone? But that is a little teaser, a motif you could even say, as to what we're going to be listening to next. But first, in conclusion, although the actual melody wasn't my favourite, the structure of the track was absolutely top notch and really exceeded a lot of other composers. I've just noticed that this track was made 2 years ago, whereas all the other tracks that we've ranked so far were from 4 years ago, and that honestly makes me so happy seeing how much Heart Plus Up has improved in that time. For the ranking, this is a bit of a tricky one, but for me, that rich harmony elevates it up into A tier. Another incredible name here, Nearing the Inferno, which is the theme of the caverns. And straight away, let's listen to that motif that I just mentioned in the last track of the monophonic chord. Let's go! If that doesn't give you the EBGBs, I have never said that in my life! I love this part here. The piano becomes more rhythmically structured, with a tenuto D minor chord acting as a background ambience, which lures the listener in by providing the first real sense of life in this track, and I think that perfectly illustrates the high risk, high reward setting of the caverns. Okay, this is a technique called transposition, which is when you repeat a melodic shape, but now in a different key. Here it is in C minor, and that adds a bit more spice and warmth, as if you're transcending down, closer towards the lava, nearing the Inferno. You know what I did there? In conclusion, I'd firstly like to give a special shout out to the drum pattern, as that added just that little bit of extra oomph to the melody, but with a devilish twist. One thing I do wish for this track, however, is more melodic versatility. It's 6 minutes and 27 seconds long, although the loop happens at 2 minutes 55, but there's only 2 main sections. The slow C-sharp minor sounding chords right at the beginning, that then chord progresses with the piano, followed by the tenuto sequence I just talked about right after. That then repeats before the loop, but now in a higher key, which is fine. In fact, everything I've just mentioned is great. But that's it, which is a little disappointing because I feel like it could have been expanded upon. I don't specialise in creating or composing music, so I wouldn't be able to give a good idea for a whole new segment that could be used in this track to help make it stand out more. But what I can do is suggest little techniques to already existing pieces to, in my opinion, improve them. My idea is to potentially insert a short bridge in a lower key, for example, B flat minor I think would be perfect, and it sounds very dark and sinister, fitting for the theme, and that would then make the return back to D major much more explosive. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, for example, undeniably one of the most impactful songs of all time, does this so well in its famous opera section, Scaramouche, temporarily taking you away from the B-flat major that was made so apparent in that breathtaking electric guitar solo before returning you to that sense of homeliness in the outro ballad section. Of course, these are 2 very different tracks, but I wanted to use a mainstream example to make it easier for you watching to understand. I did really like this melody, but because of that little critique I had, I'm going to place this into C tier, which may seem a little harsh, but that is mainly due to the level of competition being so high. And now we've made it to the bottom of the elevator, to our penultimate track for today, Descent into Hell's Fury, theme of the underworld. I've heard this track so much whilst preparing for the Wall of Flesh fight, as well as spending hours building this volcano, but I did not mind one bit, as this is a banger. Let's go! Straight away, instant death through the low orchestral brass drums, becoming the definitive marker for danger. Oh, even the music video is fire! Why am I so unfunny when I do these music reactions? This tremolo effect sparks the heat, reminding me of the molten lava bubbling and spewing out while simultaneously emulating the cavern walls through the subtle echoing. I love it! It is mind-boggling how Heart Plus Up plays with your emotions. We get pulled away from the ominous toms and drums and instead presented with an F major, almost flute-like bar. This is obviously a complete contradiction to the rest of the track, but to me this evokes a haunting reflection where you take a step back and truly observe this ruined realm full of demented creatures. Yet the overflowing lava lakes have a sense of beauty to it, probably because of that amazing volcano I built. The way the brass drone is reintroduced over the suspended cord with such vigorous power feels like an Undertaker WWE entrance where out of nowhere a beam of light shines upon a grand mythical boss watching over you, and that stuns you in place through fear and shock. I just realised that was the loop. Bravo Heart Plus Up, that was faultless. In conclusion, this theme told and showcased a biome story full of history just through the music better than any other track so far. This is the final theme that you will hear before killing your guide, which may well have been with you since the very beginning of your playthrough, and taking on the final boss of pre-hard mode, ending this chapter within your world. And the psychological piano, as well as the menacing guitar riff, immerse you into that sensation so well, signalling you as the hero, the last remaining hope to save the world and prepare for the end. This in my eyes is by far the best out of the 8 that I've currently ranked, and is 100% deserving of the S tier rank. And with that, we move on to our final track from this incredible first episode, and tragic for a certain Greenscreen, where we travel from the bottom of the world to the top with Starry Ascent, the theme of space. Let's go. For me, this is more the theme of getting bullied by harpies. Such elegance on that E minor chord that is being played there. Typically, this is used to portray a mental emotion, normally on the sad side actually, which works as space is obviously very open and empty and silent, apart from the harpies, allowing you to get lost in your own thoughts, which normally isn't a very good thing. What Heart Plus Up is doing here is using her foot for the kick drum as normal, but then she's lifting her foot completely off the pedal, so then the beater then ricochets back onto the drum, creating a reverberated effect. Before swiftly following up with a cymbal that is tuned down so the crash doesn't intervene with the harmonious flute-like synth ambience. Also, by the way, the drum is in a 6/8 time signature. Beautiful use of chord progression there, the key change sounding so grand and royal as if you were conquering the Sky Islands. Wow, that loop had a really sorrow feel to it. The long, dragged out F major chord before jumping back to the serene G as it faded out felt like the fateful climax to a devastating war. The last soldier gave it everything, but it ended in its inevitable demise. Kinda like me when I have to fight a 42 harpies, 16 wyverns and a cloud elemental. In conclusion, I was about to say how certain parts of this track felt a little empty, but this is a space theme and that is exactly how it should be. The lower BPM of around 80ish fit this too, but the aforementioned chord progression, a technique done so masterfully by DM Dekuru, the composer for most of the original Terraria Calamity themes, created an expansive journey through the vastness of space. I really like this track, and I think Heart Plus Up did a brilliant job considering you're always held back a little bit of what you can do with a space theme, unless the game is called Risk of Rain 2. I personally preferred this a little bit more than the night theme, however the underground melody I think was a little bit better, so I'm going to place it into the middle of B tier. And with that, episode 1 of 4 is complete. I love Terraria, I love Calamity, and I love music, so this video has been an absolute joy to record and hopefully a joy to watch too. I'll be back next week for part 2, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the other episodes in this series. Also, make sure you check out my past Terraria rankings as well as my full playthrough series. I promise you will not regret it. But thank you so much for watching it all the way to the end of the video, and for now, good night.